Vice Principal Ma'am to accompany them and be on the stage. So today we have gathered for our Vcmt 23. And as it's already told by Corina ma'am, it is our International Multidisciplinary Conference. So let me just give a brief journey about Vcmt, what it is about. The Institute has been organizing the conference with the sole aim of developing the knowledge through research for faculties and students. The journey of Vcmt started in the year 2014, where the first Vcmt was organized and it was at national level. Soon, the journey became international in the year 2019. And this year, it is icing on the cake as we are in the 10th year of Vcmt. And also, we have collaboration with ICSSR along with the sponsorship. All this we could achieve because of the able guidance and leadership of our principal ma'am, Dr. Rohini Kelkar. As it is rightly said by co-founder and CEO of Main Street, Doug Laudo, that we are watching financial power shift from enormous global institutions to the individual. Perhaps the biggest change in finance for 500 years is being driven by combination of technology, innovation, new business models, and rapidly growing demand for more dynamic financial services. Hence, the theme of our conference is FinTech, the Indian pathway to innovate. The main focus of the conference is to discuss the trends, opportunities, and challenges that are faced in FinTech, to discuss the issues and concerns of FinTech in the different sectors, which will be discussed by the experts who are being invited today. The speakers of the conference and the panelists will share their views and insight on specific themes related to FinTech. For today's conference, we have received more than 60 papers from research scholars, academicians, industries, and postgraduate students. We have received papers from all over Maharashtra, Goa, Gujarat, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Meghalaya. VCIT is flourishing, and R&D is able to organize various innovative activities every year. This is because of the dynamic leadership of our principal ma'am, Dr. Rohini Kelkar. On behalf of Research and Development Committee of VSIT, I would like to welcome our principal ma'am and address the gathering. Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Dignitaries on the dais, Dr. Prabhakar Patil, Shri Sheshgiri, dignitaries in the auditorium, Vice Principals Vijay and Asif, Chief Academic Officers Dr. Lakshmi and Dr. Sarika, the conference in charges Dr. Swagatika and Dr. Leena, conference participants, teachers, and students. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all for VCMT 2023 here at Vidyalankar campus today. First and foremost, I would like to thank the dignitaries for their presence amongst us. We are very eager to hear from you on the topic of the conference, that is FinTech Connect and its status in India. This conference is in two modes. A few participants are here in auditorium, few are online. this online mode is becoming more popular nowadays, more convenient. And in fact, I would say that because of that, we could have the participants from all over India, because many times physically it is not possible for them to come over here. So we also have a live relay of that. And in our one of the sessions of paper presentation is online. And some resource persons are also going to join us online. So this is in both online and offline mode. I welcome those who are physically present here for the conference today once again. Fintech is not a new word now. Everybody talks about fintech. Use of technology for financial transactions initially began to ease off the back office systems and procedures, particularly of the big financial institutions. But soon, this world shifted towards the customer services of various kinds. And now it has been used in all the sectors and industries like education, retail banking, marketing, commerce, to name a few of these. It is customary, or in traditional sense, impact of a technology is now not in traditional sense. Today, the impact of technology is denoted by the word disruption. How impactful is a technology is understood by how much disruption it is bringing in that particular field. Traditionally, disruption means kind of something which breaks the tradition, or something which is a kind of a interruption in the natural process. But today, disruption is considered in a little more positive way. And any technology, its powerful, its power is based on how disruptive it is. So we look at a disruptive technology, and fintech has been one of such technologies, which has brought a sea change in the way financial operations are happening today. I read somewhere while I was just preparing for this address that there is something called as an ABCD of fintech. A stands for artificial intelligence, B for blockchain, C for cloud computing, and B for big data. I do not understand the technicalities of these terms, but I'm sure, I surely have experienced that all these terms, all these alphabets have multiplied my financial participation as compared to 20-25 years ago. Maybe in terms of digital payments, maybe in terms of online transactions, diversification of my investment portfolio, awareness about the fiscal activities of the government, understanding of the terms like credit rate, repo rate, fiscal deficit, financial inclusion, and so on. So basically, this fintech has, helped me in being in the financial world more than what I was, 20-25 years ago. According to the ENY report, India is the largest country next to China in terms of the growth of fintech ecosystems. Various factors are responsible for that, like smartphone penetration. Almost everywhere in India, the smartphones have reached. Government initiatives like direct benefit transfer, Jana Dhana Yojana, Startup India, Digital India, and also many technological innovations, like I just mentioned about ABCD of fintech. Increased funding to the fintech startups. All these factors have been responsible for a very high growth rate of fintech in India. Demonetization also, according to me, is one of the important factors towards customers or common people's involvement in this kind of a use of fintech or digitalization. One another interesting word is used in this fintech related thing, and that is BNPL, buy now and pay later. So this BNPL also has been responsible for the growth of fintech or digital use of transactions, financial transactions. So all this has brought a real disruption in the field of financial sector, and therefore we thought that this can be an apt topic for VCMT 2023. Of course, there is the other side of the story too: security aspects, data thefts, cyber attacks, non-compliance with the regulatory authorities, and we do keep having cases of this kind, but now there is no comeback. We cannot stop the penetration of technology in banking, finance, financial sector, and everywhere. So now what is required is to be more aware, have more precautions, be very, very disciplined, follow the regulations, and use fintech to the best of our personal use as well as to the best of the country. So I'm sure under this background, today we will be able to deliberate on various aspects of fintech and finnovations through the speeches of our guests in the first session, through the panel discussion in the second session, and through the paper presentations by the participants from all over India, physically here in campus, and through online mode, which will be a post-lunch session. I once again thank all the resource persons, participants, students, and VSIT faculty members to gather here and help making VCMT an outcome-oriented activity. Thank you very much.
Yesterday, Swagatika ma'am shared the biodatas of the guest. Since I'm anchoring, so the details of the guest. And I was going through the biodata, I was going through the achievements, and I was like, wow, I get to be part of this conference and I get an opportunity to introduce them as well. So it's a privilege to introduce our guest. Our first guest is Dr. Prabhakar Patil. He's a keynote speaker. Dr. Prabhakar R. Patil is working with NITI as an adjunct professor since June 2022, retired as Chief General Manager, Securities and Exchange Board of India in February 2022. At SEBI, he headed Department of Economics and Policy Analysis. The department looks after research and publications. He had joined SEBI in 1997 as Assistant General Manager and was involved in policy-oriented research activities and official publications like Annual Report, Handbook of Statistics in Security Markets, and Monthly Bulletin. Further, Sir was on deputation as Director at Forward Markets Commission, FMC, the erstwhile regulator of the commodities derivatives market during the period of August 2005 to Feb 2009. At FMC, he looked after risk management at exchanges, contracts approval, and permission for the regulated entities for setting up subsidiaries abroad and coordination with external agencies. Sir was also the member secretary of the risk management group set up by the FMC. Several research articles were published in reviewed journals and conferences. Sir also has wide experience of teaching at university and management institution. Our chief guest for today.
Can I just say something in addition to what Corina has said? He is my Guru Bandhu. And I came to know that today morning when we were talking to each other, both of us have done our PhD from IIT Bombay from the same guide, Professor Ramanathan. Sir, I keep telling my VSIT teachers that they have to do their research from good institutes.
Our second guest, the chief guest for today's conference, is Mr. Parthasarthi. Sir has over 17 years of experience in financial markets technology and client due diligence. This including derivatives, cash equities, flow products, regulatory reforms, client master and client cycle management programs. Sir has managed globally Asian, Africa, US, and Europe projects, leading technology delivery for large multi-million-dollar program and managing client critical global platforms for corporate and institutional banking and commercial banking. Sir's specialties include financial markets, regulatory reforms, derivatives, messaging and SWIFT integration technologies, technology delivery and program management, business solutions and analysis. Sir has a proven track record of implementing global enterprise banking solutions, leading large multi-million-dollar programs of delivery and strong understanding of the regulatory landscape. Electrical and electronics engineer by training, Sir enjoys both technology and management positions with a key focus to detail, analytical approach to problem solving and proven ability to deliver value and drive bottom line results. Strong consulting and international experience, having worked and lived in Frankfurt, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and India. I now request Principal Ma'am to felicitate the guest. Dr. Prabhakar Patil. Mr. Parthasarthi. Thank you, ma'am. Last but not the least, before I hand over the mic to Dr. Prabhakar Patil, I would like to thank our Vice Principal, Mr. Vijay Gowdy sir, Mr. Asif Rampurawala sir, all the delegates who have come from all different parts of the world, the faculty members and the students. Sir, Dr. Prabhakar Patil sir, I would now like.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. And thanks to Vidyalangar Institute for giving me this opportunity to come to this campus. And it's really I'm happy to meet one of my, junior we were together in the IIT campus. And then interestingly, I could meet Mr. Deshpande also, that who was with me in the IIT campus during my time. And in fact, the initial motivation is so good that I really like to interact, and especially when I'm looking at young researchers who are all present here. And as Dr. Kelkar Madam already introduced you about the fintech. See, basically, I even though I had worked with the regulator and all of them, I have more of a research bent of mind. When we really look at the fintech, this vocabulary has come into our discussion in the recent period. But historically, if you really look at that, it started from the 90s. Okay. And, in the US, there is a, activity called electronic connecting networks. We used to call it as a ECN. Okay. It started in the mid 90s. Why it is important for us to remember, when they were doing that activity, that fintech vocabulary was not present in the industry at that point of time. But the technocrats who had really, made a significant impact, the way the trading takes place, especially in the US, is pretty significant, because even though US, securities market has a national market system and all of them, but still the customers will not be getting the best price. So that was prevailing it. In order to eliminate that, the electronic connecting networks is to pull together all the orders and then put them to the mainframe through electronically and get them the best price. So that was the thing, real activity. In fact, one of the name which was very popular during that point of time is that Archipelago. This particular entity, who is an ECN, actually made a significant impact in consolidation of the stock exchanges in the Europe and Western world. Okay. Well, some of you who are familiar with the securities market, you know that in the US now the biggest exchange is that ICE, interconnected exchange. If you look at that, it was initially promoted by the technocrats. Finally, in fact, they have taken over one of the oldest stock exchange in the world. That New York Stock Exchange has been taken over by them. Now it is a group company of the ICE. Okay, it will be interesting. Why I'm trying to share this experience with you is that so the type of revolution that the technology has made in the financial markets, okay, in general. When we really look at in the real, I still remember when I really joined in SEBI, when SEBI has permitted the FIIs to come and invest in the country. So that time, one of the discussion in that why FIIs will come and invest in the Indian market. The simple reason that was propagated by the researchers for that, Indian markets had a negative correlation with the developed markets, including the US. Okay. So since there is a negative relation with the developed markets, so it is a sort of a diversification benefits. That was the initial thought process. But the technology has eliminated that gap. The technology has ensured that the seamless information will flow all over the world. Okay. So now the moment you see from early 20s onwards, Indian markets move in tandem with the developed markets. So the initial, attraction disappeared, but that has really happened because of the way the technology has made a significant impact. And especially in India securities market, when 1994 National Stock Exchange started trading, electronic trading. In fact, this particular model was unique to the world during that time, because nowhere in the world trading was taking online. Okay, the reason is that because it was an open outcry system. The moment when we say open outcry trading platforms, that is the code-driven market where you have the jobbers standing at different locations. Okay, and they will be giving the two-way quotes. Then the investors have an option to buy or sell. But the design of the NSE platform was that it's an order-driven market where buyers and sellers put the orders into the order book, and there is anonymity. No one knows who are the other side standing, and order matching and all of them. There are a lot of discussion in the paper. And I mean, most of you are very young. I think you have not seen that really securities market when NSE started really trading, because we used to have the physical share certificates, right? So when the physical share certificates started getting delivered at the NSE platform, then the big issue is that the bad delivery. Okay. So what is this bad delivery? Because the paper, the certificate, when you send it for the transfer, and the registrar and state transfer agent will send it back saying that either the certificate is duplicate or you will say that the signature is not matching. Okay. Because if we see the period, there is a structural break in the way the trading was taking place in the securities market. 1994 was a tough. Okay. If you look at before that, it was delivered only in the Bombay Stock Exchange platform. Bombay Stock Exchange platform, what is to really happen that open outcry trade, the brokers used to take the delivery and then subsequently they used to dispatch to the investors who are spread all over the country. But the moment NSE came, NSE had its trading terminal set up all over the country. So anyone can deliver from any part of this country. That was the thing it was happening at. Then there was a big challenge to the regulator, how to eliminate this bad delivery. Initially, they came out with a checklist, okay, how you will decide that whether it's a good delivery or bad delivery. But in real world, if this is not going to create a confidence among the participants, then the dematerialization came. Dematerialization itself is nothing but a fintech job, right? What are we doing that? Again, when the dematerialization started in the country, it was unique to the world. Though before in India, it was there only in the South Korea. But South Korea dematerialization system was such that where they used to retain the physical certificates and they create an electronic record. But in India, when the NSDL started the dematerialization, they used to destroy the certificates. Okay. And you remember that, when we say the destroy means this so-called share certificate is to have the folio number and distinctive numbers of your shares. So they all disappeared. Okay, this is the number of shares you have. You are owning 100 or 200 shares like that. That's how you are, as a beneficiary, your account is to display to you. So mainly when we really look at that, the whole securities market, development has been achieved because of the technology. Without technology, it should not have happened it. Because if you look at when Harshad Mehta scam took, what were the trading volumes? After 1994, what were the trading volumes? It is exponentially increased. Now today, when we look at back, even the 50th, largest broker turnover will be much higher than the trading volumes that were there during the 1992 Harshad Mehta scam, because that time it was open outcry trading platforms. So basically, the technology has made a significant impact, and I'm planning to restrict myself to the financial markets. And if you really look at the way Madam was saying that, and many of us know that if someone want to send money, they used to go to the post office to send the money order. How much of your time it is to take place, and what are the transaction costs involved in it? And when the payment banks were started in the country, again, it's a unique model in the country. The banking sector, what has really happened it. And the developments that have taken place both in the banking sector and the securities market are mainly the pillar of these developments is the technology. Technology's adoption in the financial markets is nth order. Okay, no other industry has so much of technology absorbed in the industry. Okay, either you talk about the information that is getting disseminated, because if you go to any broker, you will see that there will be Bloomberg or Refinity news terminals which will be on the screen, and based on that they are capturing the information and taking the position. And when I'm trying to tell you this particular thing, when we see fintech, basically what are we trying to say that how we are using the technology in the financial markets to ensure that the stakeholders are benefited. That is a really interesting thing. Okay. And especially when I'm really looking at this particular point, when I look at my young researchers, what am I thinking that, why we don't look at the important issues? When Ministry of Corporate Affairs declares that so much of money, which is unclaimed money, it is lying with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs Investor Protection Fund. Okay. I'm sure that you are aware of that. Okay. Generally, what really happens is that if you don't claim your dividend for 3 years or more, all your dividend will go automatically to the Investor Protection Fund, which is under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. In addition to that, your share certificates also will be transferred to them. And interesting thing is that how this can happen when we say that there is so much of technology absorption. Okay. My point is that why we are not looking at that point. Okay. And in fact, when sometime back when I was with the regulator's office, I was looking at that when someone has the dematerialized his shares, why is not getting his corporate benefits into his bank account directly? What was the real problem? Real problem is that the human intervention. The reason is that because ultimately the technology depends upon that what has been told to them by the human being. If the human being who has been delegated to communicate with the technology, if he miscommunicates, what can we do it? For example, I will tell you many times, when you go for the Aadhaar card, okay, when you go and give them all the documents, there is a human being who is sitting, is punching the names and all the things. If he does a small mistake of some name, some spelling, when ultimately it gets printed and when it's given to you, then if you tell to the issuer that there is a printing mistake, he says, no, you come through the process for which you are not accountable. Okay, you as an individual, when you wanted Aadhaar number, you have given them all the records. But how did it happens it? But this culture is there in India across all the area. Whether you talk about the Aadhaar card, or you go for registration of your documents, or you go to open a dematerialization account. Interestingly, what really happens that when you are opening the dematerialization account, you are supposed to give a cancelled check to them. Okay, unless and until you give a cancelled check, you will not, because he's supposed to enter your bank account number in the database. But the depository says that these bank accounts are not really working. So basically, when the fellow whom you employ as a what we can contract staff who's supposed to punch this number, if he has done some clerical error, well, that is the end of you. You are not getting your corporate benefit. Okay. So when I'm saying that corporate benefit, you understand what is corporate benefit? Corporate benefit is nothing but if you are owning a shares of a company, if the company is giving you the dividends, okay, or if company is giving you the, any other monetary benefits, they automatically go into your bank account. They don't come to your house. So that actually really benefits to you, because most of the times we keep changing your address from one location to other location. Okay, if they send a check to the previous address, you never get it. That check, by the time you receive it, it becomes the date is not valid. So then again, you have to resend it back for the date revalidation, all the things. So technology has made a good impact. And we also know that in the market, there is algorithmic trading. Okay. I'm sure that you are familiar with the vocabulary or not. Algorithmic trading is nothing but, if I am a trader, I use my knowledge and put everything into the program. So I keep that program. Whenever it sees the opportunity based on my thought process, it gets activated. Okay. So again, this is nothing but the, when we say that algorithm, which has been written by one individual, not necessarily that he writes only one algorithm, he writes different algorithms. The simple reason is that because real environment have the different scenarios, right? So when at the different scenarios, which algorithm has to click? That's what generally we call it as the algos. Okay. So the fintech, when we really talk about that from the investor's point of view, you write algos and use it. And then you also know that after the trade has taken place, if you want to know that which are the shares you are bought and which are the shares, so you can see instantaneously. Okay, you can just open your account, demat account, and check, or else you can open your broker account and check today. That's how the technology has made it. Now, today, especially when I was a student, if I want to trade in the stock market, I have to call a sub-broker. Okay, this vocabulary, many of you might not be familiar with it. So sub-broker will take my order, and then sub-broker will pass it on to the broker. Broker in turn will pass it on to the jobber to get my order executed. Okay. Ultimately, when I get the transactions, I don't know at what price actually the order has been executed. Okay. Generally, if I am a retail investor, always my buy will be at the highest price. If I am the seller, my sell will be always at the lowest price. Okay, that's how I get it, because I don't know real time at what prices they are trading it, because at the same time the newspapers used to publish what was the open, high, low, close. But ultimately, I am always there at the wrong side. Okay. So suddenly I used to scratch my head that why I'm always at wrong. And in addition to that, I used to pay a brokerage of 2%. That's significant transaction cost. Okay. But today, what is that? And I'm sure that Zerodha and all these brokers, they say that we are zero cost. Okay. So point I'm trying to say that the technology has eliminated the significant cost to us. And at the same time, the information at your fingertips, okay, you are able to know that instantaneously. And we as the researchers, do we have to really look at somewhere else to do that? By looking at this real environment, why today we say that investors are not climbing? Can we say that the state can be a mute spectator when investors are not getting their money back? Why anyone will not claim their money? Okay. So if we really look at that, because if you go to any listed company website, if you go to the listed company's website and when you go to the investor protection, and there will be one icon where you will get the information about unclaimed dividend. You go and click that, then you'll come to know that who are the investors who have not claimed their money. Okay. So we researchers, can't we really map these people that why they are not able to do that? Can't we really write a program to cross-check with their whether these people have the demat account or not? If they have the demat account, why they have not claimed? If this amount of unclaimed dividend runs into few thousands of crores of money, which actually belongs to the retail investors, okay, does the government requires to do any separate investor awareness programs rather than giving them money back to them? Because we know that a satisfied customer will again come back. Okay, like that, if the investor, when he has forgotten or he has somehow not understood the real world, he lost claiming his own money. If the state takes the responsibility of giving the money back to them, is not the good thing which has to be done. So basically, my point is that when we really look at that as a researchers, we have to look at the practical problems which are there in the society. How our technology is really going to make their life much more comfortable. Okay. Right. So this is the one dimension which I'm giving it to you. But, in the similar to that, the same thing in the banking industry. Okay. The unclaimed money with the banks is, runs into again few thousands of crores. Okay. And they say that transfer it to the investor protection fund. But these are the really, in today's environment, are we really going to accept it? But many times I feel that even the researchers also have the herd mentality like the stock market participants. Because I still remember in 99, 2000, Harvard Business School, MIT, and all of them, they used to float courses on how to value the new economy stocks. Okay. So why that, vocabulary has become popular during that time was that new economy stocks were not having the book value. What is the book value? Your own assets and all of them. So then the new way of evaluating them, then, our professors told us that there is a brand equity, all of them valuation. And that's where our banking sector got trapped by doing the valuation of the Kingfisher's brand so high because it was popular. Because when you look at the traditional models which have been designed, my point is that whether if someone tells us that the brand has an equity, okay, valuation, the big question what we should ask that the brands will have a association with the existing promoters. The valuations, what we are going to give it to the particular brand will disappear the moment the promoters associated with the brand have the bad credibility. And at this point, no one said that. Is that no one knows, not aware of that? Okay. And when we know that the theory of lemons, okay, which is the asymmetrical information, what we really talk, Professor Akerlof, when he came with that idea, and if you look at that, is a Nobel citation, he says that he got that thought process when he was doing his research work with the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. Okay. He was actually moving in our environment, right? So in our environment, we have a lot of issues which are really happening that which will really provoke us to understand it. Okay. And why I'm sensitizing it to you that especially when we see in the 90s, there was collective investment schemes. What they used to say that plantation schemes, they used to call it. Technical word was for that is a collective investment schemes. And they used to sell bonds for 1,000 rupees. And they used to tell means investors, to you and me, tell that when the tree keeps on growing, your returns are also growing. Okay. So no one got the returns. Okay. Interesting thing. So many of them disappeared, and SEBI also started telling them that you have to register with us, and no one has come and registered with us except one entity. But that entity after registration never came with any public issue because there is going to be significant accountability. So why I'm telling you that when someone comes and tells us the story that this is going to give you high returns, why researchers are not going to address that issue? Okay. That herd mentality. And we know most of the times when we really go to the classroom, we tend to say that these are all Ponzi schemes. And, when we say that Ponzi schemes, which, dates back to, 1895, 96. And we all know that Mr. Ponzi is smart enough to, cheat so many investors in the US. And, when we say that, is it the beginning of the Ponzi scheme with the Ponzi only? But they were prevailed even before that. Okay. Like we have the big story of the tulip bulbs. Okay. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with the tulip bulb. Tulip bulbs are nothing but the flowers, which were sold in a European country. Okay. And it around 1623-24, that was the time. And there were derivatives on the tulip bulbs, right? And each flower was traded 5 times the annual skilled labor salary. Okay, 5 times the annual skilled labor at that point of time. I'm telling you that. So if that was the price, what was paid by people like you and me to the flower? And what is the intrinsic value of the flower? It's a big question mark. But it did almost 2 years or so. The tulip bulbs traded at very high price, and subsequently the whole, whatever someone has invested disappeared. And that's the reason why we are very popularly know the tulip mania, okay? Tulip bulbs mania. But today, when we really look at that fintech and all of them, often we try to say, like Madam also gave the example that B stands for the blockchain. I have a big question, okay? When someone uses this technology for their products, okay, basically the cryptos, which we see on TV channels, many experts coming and debating. At the same time, since we are all, financial economists, we know that when we really go and talk to our students, we tell them that what is the real benefit of the currency? What is the economic purpose of the currency? We say that it is a medium of transaction and the store of value. These are the 2 parameters which we tend to explain to the students. Now tell me, where does this 2 parameters satisfied by the crypto? Okay. And then we comes to the issue that how does the currency gets originated? And we all know that unless and until there are goods and services produced in the system, currency cannot be generated. And why there is the exchange rate of one currency to other country currency? It shows the intrinsic strength of the market structure of different countries. Okay, it gets reflected on that. That is the reason why we moved into the purchasing power parity for making comparison, more realistic comparison, all of them. With all the things we are all aware, but suddenly we started talking about Bitcoins. And I'm trying to, when keep looking at the debate that goes on TV channels, they say that, they consume a lot of energy. I said, there are secondary issues. Let us come to the first issue. What are they doing? They said that, no, they use a lot of mining tools. I asked them that, tell me what economic utility it has, that mining tools. Because if someone has really resolved some puzzles, or he has solved certain problems which have been posed by the Bitcoin rewards mechanism. Whether the process, if I solve this particular problem, when I've been rewarded with the Bitcoins, whether this particular model has any economic utility, no one knows. if anything has any economic utility, that's fine. Blockchain is independent of the crypto. Incidentally, crypto claims that they are using that. So mainly when I'm looking at that, when we really say that, when I was explaining you that Tulip Bania, okay, what I'm trying to say that suddenly when I look back and start thinking, I said that the people who lived in the 17th century were more intelligent than people who are in 21st century, because at least they could see some flowers, but we are not able to see even that. And Financial Services Authority, UK, makes a public statement telling to the investors, those who have invested their money in the cryptos, be ready that your investment will become zero. Okay. At the same time, all countries, all the states are become the mute spectators. This is the big question which I am not able to understand. One of the reason is that because researchers are not bombarding them. Okay. Researchers should come and say that why state is becoming the mute spectator when these illegal activities are happening right in front of us. Okay. And I have my own views. Okay. I personally feel that when there is a building getting constructed like Adarsh in Mumbai, the building is not constructed underground. It was getting right in front of us in the Nariman Point area. And no one said anything. When the building was completed and everything, then they're talking about that this has become illegal. And now tell me, I mean, is that a very funny thing when, after a few years, building can't be built overnight. It takes few years, okay? And then same thing in the Noida, when the Twin Towers were built, okay? And, I mean, like probably I'll be entering into the judicial forum and all of them. And he said that because one of the reasons is that because there is no sufficient space around the buildings in case of the fire. But in today, we all know that the fire can be put off by even the drones. Okay. Now let us look at the cost benefit analysis between the bringing down the tower which was constructed, because when a tower is constructed, I say that is a national wealth. It has been added to our economic activity. Okay. And you are actually destroying that. But did anyone say that? Except that all TV channels were, everyone want to be the first one to show us that how the whole buildings are going to be, removed from the surface. But, did anyone say that the problem, what you have seen 40 years back, where you need to have the big, fire engines to move around the building. Instead of that, the builder will say that he will use the drones to put off the fire whenever, and there will be dedicated drones there. So this particular thing, I feel that most of the times, I am part of the academic community, but only thing I say that most of the times we are all mute spectators. Okay, most of the times when the good things are happening, we don't really address the issues, right? And when we really, because when you are in the platform where you want to really understand the fintech and all of them, when we really look at that, what are the exchanges economic activity? When we really look at the economic activity exchange platform economic activity is the price discovery and risk management. And exchanges have not come overnight. They were there even in the 17th century. The oldest exchange was there in Japan for price discovery of the rice. Okay. So now then we often see that politicians saying that there is no delivery taking place on the exchange platform. Okay. Especially when we look at the commodities market. And my feeling is that, well, commodities are not homogeneous, right? Commodities have the heterogeneity depending upon each location. But that is true all over the world. But how can you say that when a commodity trading in the exchange platform, those who are trading in the exchange platform, when they are trading for the price discovery risk management, why are you asking them to go for delivery? Okay. And this really surprises. And the topic gets debated in the parliament, and there will be significant number of lawmakers who says that they blame the system. But incidentally, some of you should have gone to the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. There, they have the posters which says that whenever the prices goes up, okay, all processors and consumers will come and shout at them. Okay, when the prices crashes, then the producers will come and shout at them. Okay. That is not happened today, but it was happening more than 100 years back. But what are we doing today when we have technology so much, and why we are not able to understand that if a particular commodity prices goes up, what is the real reason? There is a demand supply mismatch. Even if there is a marginal mismatch, price impact is going to be significant because consumption goods, consumer is not going to postpone his consumption. As a result of that, even if there is a small mismatch, that's what the state has to understand it, the policymaker to understand it. Why does this happen really? Mismatch in the, are we able to bridge that supply demand gap or not? Instead of doing that, we shut down the exchanges not to trade, because you are the one who is the disseminating the information to that. Like, most of the time we say that messenger has been hanged. Okay. So how many times we really see that, researchers are addressing these issues? Okay. Many times we go for the, time series modeling. Okay. And in fact, even I did the same thing when I was a student. Okay. So my thesis topic runs into causal analysis and an econometric and time series analysis. But today, if I really look back what I have done during my PhD days, I'm not really happy. But what I learned my student as a researcher days is that the analytical skills and critically examining that what I should really look into it. Okay. That was the thing what I learned in my student days. So that is the reason why I keep posing these questions as and when I get an opportunity, and I try to provoke the researchers to think out of box. Don't say that someone who is there in the foreign soil is going to do it, but absolutely not so. As I gave you the example of the asymmetrical information. Asymmetrical information is nothing but buyer's information set and seller's information set are different. Okay. When we say that market participants have the asymmetrical information, that is the buyer's information set is not identically equal to the seller's information set. Okay. So if this is the thing which all of us know that, but only thing we don't express. Okay. When I'm talking to some of my friends that in the real environment, do we have any objective view, objective decision? I say that so-called objective decision is subject to the information set of the individuals who is expressing that. The moment the individual information set expands, the objective decision, objective thought process, whatever has been communicated, again gets expanded. But that is a reality, because certain things doesn't exist. So we generally accept them. Okay. So when I really look at that, when we say that technology adoption, all of them, but recently CAG was saying that in the oil companies, seniors have been overpaid. Okay. And they said 4 years back overpaid. After 4 years, CAG does that. And is that really, it takes so much of time, because we know that all the institutions have the SAP. Okay. So it doesn't really take so much of time. You can almost come to know on a continuous basis. But why these things are happening, I feel that there are such structural issues in our system. Okay. There is a conflict of interest continuously.
विद्यालंकार शैक्षणिक संकुलात आपले स्वागत आहे. थोड्याच वेळात राष्ट्रगीत सुरू होईल. राष्ट्रगीताच्या सन्मानार्थ सर्वांनी उभे राहावे. विद्यालंकार में आपका स्वागत है. जल्द ही राष्ट्रगान शुरू होगा. सभी से निवेदन है कि राष्ट्रगान के सम्मान में खड़े हो जाएं. Welcome to Vidyalankar Educational Campus. Please stand in honor of the national anthem.
Actually, this is a really excellent tradition that has been adopted by Vidyalankar. I'm really happy to see this. And, broad issue is that provoke you all, okay? Because all of us know that all of us have potential, okay? And I'm sure that with this, I want to thank the Vidya Lankar and Kelkar madam and Leena madam, all of them. And especially I want to thank Dr. Swagatika for introducing me to this campus. And she is the one who motivated me to come to the campus. And after reaching here, I met so many of my old friends. And thanks to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhakar Patil, for enlightening us with your knowledge. So there was so much of learning from your words. It was so nice to know that how things were earlier and how it has changed. Thank you so much, sir. I now request our chief guest, Mr. Parthasarthi, to share his views.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can we have some energy here in this room? Great. Thanks for inviting me today. It's a honor and it's humbling, to sit among so many PhDs and stalwarts, and for me to share my industry experience. And one more thing that I notice here, which is heartening to me, is right in industries and the banks and technology space, we talk about diversity and inclusion. More than 50% of the audience are women here. Now, I think I should take this back to my organization, because we always strive to achieve, inclusivity and to kind of bring women leadership into the organization where we work. And we struggle, because various reasons, but in an academic institution, it's really, really nice to see all of you sitting here. So thanks for that. I'm going to use my digital technology to run my slides. I did a pretty good quick job when I was coming in the flight to talk about, think through what I'm going to talk about today. So before I start, right, I think Dr. Prabhakar did a brilliant speech, and he put me under a lot of pressure now. He touched upon a lot of interesting topic in the trading world. And I concur with most of his view, except the current tulip mania, which is the blockchain and the Bitcoin, because I'm a stupid investor in Bitcoin and I'm losing money, so to speak. But I love the technology, and we will touch upon it, as we go along. So today, I think I'm going to talk about the impact of fintech in the banking domain, because that's where my expertise is. And let's touch upon, what are the issues that we face, what risks that banks are facing with the advent of fintech. And you're absolutely right. Fintech dates back quite some time back. I mean, I'm an avid investor. So when I look at people who are in the investing space, people generally associate Warren Buffett and others, who are the poster boys of the investing world. But if you really look at who actually made a lot of money in terms of compounding returns, it's not Warren Buffett. I think he's, with due respect to him, he made about 17-18% compounding year on year, which is tremendous. There's this quantum fund, which I think is running since 1970s, completely into algo trading, and it is founded by research scientists who worked in NASA and CIA and retired, and then they kind of brought in people, and they kind of closed that a particular algo unit within like a decade of their opening, because the kind of returns that they generate, would over-consume the NYSE stock market itself. The volume could not be handled. It's been like more than 20-30 years since they accepted any new investors. This is to say that, the technology, and even today they are giving a annual return of about 63%. Tremendous. So coming back to the impact of fintech, right? See, first of all, what is fintech? You touched upon financial technology. It basically transforms the financial services industry. A lot of innovative solutions are on the offering. Welcome, students. I'm glad that we have students amongst the audience today as well. Let me allow them to settle now. All right. So I mean, if you look at if you look at fintech, right? We are talking about digital banking platforms, blockchain-based solution. It changes the way we do business on a day-to-day basis. But from a bank's perspective, right? We always talk about digitization or digitalization or digital transformation, and these are interchangeably used all the time, but each has its own particular definition. And when we lighted the diya today, you take a particular manual mechanism and then apply technology on top of it. It's digitization. And if you improve the process, which means, doctor and I were trying to remove the shoes, and because we are lighting diya, and we've changed the process as well because it's digital. We've changed not only the technology, but also the process associated with it, which is digitalization. And if we move a step forward and if we bring the culture and the mindset of the organization adopting the digital technologies, then we talk about digital transformation. And it's very important to understand this in the context of what we're attempting to do, especially in our banks, right? We are very guilty of talking about automation all the time. And what we end up doing is we automate bad processes because, like Doctor said, people don't question why the process existed. So we wanted to do things faster. We just simply automate the process rather than looking at holistically whether this process is in fact correct. And should we do it in any better form, shape, and then apply tech. And this is where the culture comes and the mindset comes. And if you apply digital transformation technology, and it starts right from the CEO of an organization, otherwise, this transformation is impossible to achieve. And we see day-to-day basis that we spend millions of dollars in programs. When I was introduced, people talked about, doctor spoke about big programs that I've deployed. And my day-to-day life, if you look at it, right, in a software development life cycle, we write code, and then we have to take the code and deploy them into production. And we call this a 10x problem. The writing of a software, let's say, takes 10 days for me. 50 people working on a project, writing a line of code, 10 days. Implementing that software takes 100 days for me, 100 man days. It 10x a problem because any organization, a big organization, especially a regulatory facing organization, are over conservative in terms of addressing the needs of the regulators, needs of the markets. And what we do is we kind of keep creating safety nets in the name of processes. And these processes are automated in a bad fashion rather than looking at, really doing a digital transformation. So a programmer who spends a day writing a software has to wait for 10 days to realize that software working and then giving, client experience. Whereas the world is moving so fast, 10 days of wait time is no longer appreciated. And we are really looking at, how do we transition from this and make the 10x problem, say, a 2x or a 3x problem to begin with. And one of the real world example I can tell you is, I'm managing client due diligence for all the entities for Standard Chartered Bank. I forgot to tell you. I should have said this, all opinions that I express here are personal and not representative of my bank. My business manager told me, go and say this is the first thing, and I totally forgot about it. And in that role, right, the onboarding of an entity, let's say an entity is JP Morgan Chase or Vidyalankar School. Let's say you become a corporate customer of Standard Chartered Bank. Any guess how long would we take to do KYC, client due diligence, and then onboard you as a customer? Any guess from the audience? How long will it take for us to onboard you as a client? Anyone? Just random guess. 1 day. Okay, that's a good guess. 20 minutes. Thank God my boss is not here. It could take up to 33 days. Yeah, and it's bad, actually. It's really bad. The aspiration is 1 day, actually. The reason is, right, depending on the market that we operate in. Let's say if you're in a Western country, European country, or in US, the availability of the information of this particular entity is all in public domain. It is certified. See, it's not the problem of availability of data. It is important that the data gets certified by an authority which can then be consumed. And without that, what happens is we have to do client outreach all the time. So I need to understand who are the patrons of Vidyalankar Institute, who are the managing trustees, what are their shareholding patterns. I need to kind of go into political exposure of these related parties and how much of share percentage that they control. And I need to do due diligence on each of these people, individuals and the entities before I could onboard. And in countries where we operate, especially in Africa, the availability of information is not necessary. The digital information is not certified information, which essentially means it is a lot of manual work. Even though once the document comes into Standard Chartered or any bank for that matter, then things flow through in an STP'd manner. But we have to solve this problem. This is a real world problem. And when Doctor mentioned about researchers to focus on a real world problem, I'll give you this real world problem. One more problem statement that I have. Say in this institute, there are 3 shareholders. Let's just assume each of them owning, say, 20% of the shares of this particular institution. And I onboard VSIT into my bank. And one of the directors also happens to be a private wealth customer of Standard Chartered Bank. And the same individual is also onboarded as an individual private client. And let's also assume that this individual is a minority shareholder of another entity that we are working with. Now, we again have to do screening of this particular related party, because in my database, and because you look at it this way, I manage corporate, commercial and institutional banking. Now, when I onboarded the entity, I've onboarded the entity and this person A, which with 20% shareholding. And then this person is also a retail customer, wealth customer, and that is in the CPBB, private banking division. That individual gets onboarded. I have no idea that this person A, which we have name screened here, is the same person who's also a client of our bank. And then you extrapolate this problem. This individual can have multiple relationships with the bank, and every time, and the reason is also because one could smartly say, hey, if you have a passport or an ID card, you can just verify. There's a lot of privacy laws exist which prevents us from collecting individual ID information. And even names are not necessarily the same. It could be Parthasarthi Seshagiri in one, Partha Seshagiri in another one, Seshagiri Parthasarthi in another one. So we do try to apply machine learning in order to kind of come to a stage where we have a higher degree of probability to say, oh, the Partha in retail banking is the same Parthasarthi Seshagiri in the entity. But it is not a resolved problem, and it's an industry problem. It's not just pertaining to Standard Chartered. I did give it an attempt a couple of years back. We kind of brought the predictability to about 56%, but that's not good enough. That's not good enough to take a conscious decision that, I'm just going to go with that 56% hit rate and then not do the screening. That puts the banks at risk. So that's a real world problem for people to solve here. And what we are also doing we are partnering with MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and I'm working closely with the Chief Innovation Officer of MAS. You look at what we do, right, on a day-to-day basis. I onboard clients to the bank. The same clients, how many of you have only one bank account? Most of us have more than one bank account. You open a bank account with ICICI, you will have one with Kotak, blah, blah, blah. And each of the bank will ask for your KYC information, right? It's never the case that, I've given my Aadhaar card here. It's a central database. Why Kotak is also asking the same information, and why IDBI is also asking the same information? And it's an individual level. And this is a solved problem in Singapore for individuals. The government has a database, MyInfo, which stores all of my information. And the moment I want to log in into any of these banks or websites where they want ID details, if I give consent, centrally the data is pulled. Now, why can't we do this for entities? If I'm willing to share this information, and this is where we are looking at blockchain, because then you can truly certify the data. If, let's say, Singtel or Tata Group is a client of Standard Chartered Bank, hypothetically, then I have already done the due diligence of Tata Group. And this information, I can share it in a central database, let's call it blockchain. And if they want to trade with, say, DBS or ICICI, all they need to do is subscribe to this information. And then voila, you know what, your 30-day onboarding is now reduced to, I don't know, 1 or 2 days. One is very aspirational, and I think we'll be very happy if we achieve 7 days of onboarding here. And I realized that it is not that easy. And when we talk to all the banks and with the regulators, you realize a lot of banks conduct this due diligence at a different level of conservatism. Say a bank A could be very conservative. You know, regulations are common for everyone, you know, because that's determined by the regulatory bodies. But that gets transformed into policy of the individual financial institution, and depending on the jurisdiction that they operate in, they're either too conservative or too liberal, you know, and therefore they're not willing to participate with MAS, because then they are exposed to challenges from MAS on why are you not doing a proper due diligence. And this project is still, we're still in discussion. We are not able to move while the technology is there. This is a case where, the regulations and the processes prohibits from using the technology to move into that stage, but we're still working with MAS. And another topic, that a real world topic, and I'm getting a lot of references from the banking industry so that, you understand how even though technology has improved a lot over years, it's still not solving real world problems. That's why I liked when he mentioned about we have to attempt solving the real world issues. And one of the issues that we're talking about is cloud. Cloud is the ABC, the C of the cloud, right? A lot of organizations now have moved into cloud. But if you'll realize that many global banks, especially in the corporate institutional banking, would not have the data in cloud. And this is not because of technology limitations. You've got your AWS, you've got your Azure. It's easy to migrate stuff into cloud. It's a regulatory problem that needs to be resolved. And this needs to be understood by the industry and the researchers at large. Let's say I operate my entity onboarding, let's say in 46 jurisdiction. You bucket this cloud problem into 3 buckets, yeah. And keep me honest on the time check. Yeah, my wife keep telling me that I talk a lot. So 3 buckets. Bucket A, which is where 90% of the regulations fall. They are pro-cloud regulators. So they say, fantastic, it's a great technology, move into cloud. We don't have a problem. They don't care which cloud provider that you choose. They don't care where the cloud provider sits, their data center sits. So they are pro. And then the second bucket, which is in a country like China, they are pro-cloud, but the cloud infrastructure has to be within their jurisdiction. And even a step further, they would rather prefer entity which belong to China, like an Ali cloud, over an AWS, but even though AWS has set up a data center in China. And then there is a third bucket, which is they're not pro-cloud. They don't care whether you're an AWS, Azure, or an Ali cloud. They're like, Bangladesh and Pakistan, for example, they're like, sorry, I don't like cloud. I don't understand cloud. What is happening to my data? Now, while this is a regulatory problem, there is a technology element that needs to be resolved. For example, if I have an application with an underlying database, and if I have a single instance of a database, that cannot be distributed across these 3 geographies. So while thinking about building an application, you should have the technology design principles in place to ensure that you are able to do a distributed database, distributed computing, so that you then pull out the information from different jurisdiction, here in this case, 3 buckets, and then you're able to stitch them together in memory and then present it to the user seamlessly. But if you look at the problems that we face in the industry, 80% of the applications are legacy, and which makes it extremely complicated for us to achieve this, even though the technology is in place. So that's another problem that we are looking to solve. And like I want to touch upon also the challenges that the market share challenge that we have as a banking vis-a-vis fintech. Like in 2017, we took a family holiday to Switzerland, and I am a priority customer of my own bank, and I was trying to transfer money to the Airbnb where we are staying, and the rate that my bank offered for me was ridiculous. It is like almost I was losing 17 to 18% of money just in FX transactions. Obviously, I'm unhappy, and I'm challenging my FX trader, saying, even though I am a bank employee, I am a priority customer. Is this the level of service that I expect from you? And they were like, yes, sir, this is the basis point difference that we will take. And then and I didn't realize at that point in time, but the chalet owner where I am going to stay, he said, why don't you use TransferWise? It's a fintech company. So, and then I looked up TransferWise, and let us say, for example, $1 Singapore dollar is 1.34 Singapore dollar is, let's say, 1 Swiss franc. And I almost got the rate that xe.com or your bloomberg.com was offering me. Very, very minor difference. I saved 17% of cost, and Switzerland being expensive, that's a huge cost for me. And the way they do it is, it's fascinating. It's a simple idea. There are net buyers and net sellers of these currencies. So what they do is they net at the end of the day, and the netting position is what they do an FX conversion on. And therefore, they don't pay a lot of commission to the exchanges, and that gets passed on to the end customer. And they achieve again through a blockchain as a technology. And if you look at it, right, this is a huge threat for an FX market for a traditional bank like us. And we cannot continue to operate in this environment. If fintechs are, why would a consumer come to any bank losing 17 to 20% of his or her money when there is a solution out there which is so good, and it was seamless as well? I think it is a real threat that fintech, the emergence for the bank. And what do we do about it? And see, what are the problems? We have legacy systems. So, and then fintechs come with shiny new toys, which we are not able to compete. Second, the customer experience. Because it's legacy system, you look at our user interface, it's really bad. And look at how the fintechs are creating their UI and UX. And there's a lot of emphasis on UX design coming out of fintech. Customer experience being their number one priority. We need to change. Regulations. Banks are subject to a range of regulations, whereas fintech is not so much. That's a disadvantage for us. And the culture as well. And I keep emphasizing culture to my colleagues all the time, because technology is only one part of it. It's a culture of innovation that needs to change. It's a mindset thing. And finally, the speed. Fintech are able to, the 10x problem that I'm talking about, fintechs can do it much faster. They do low code, no code on a continuous deployment. Every day on a production day, they can continue to deploy the changes that comes into the market. We can't. We have to wait 3 months for a production change to go into production platform. So it's real crap. We have a lot of challenge, but we can't sit back and then decide that fintech is going to consume. What do we do about it? I think we are partnering with a lot of fintechs. If you can't beat them, join them. That's the philosophy, and that's the right philosophy, because while fintech has a fantastic UI and UX, they don't have the customer base. They don't have the geographical knowledge. They don't have the vast experience of the regulations. They don't have the backend to settle. They have a shiny new front-end toy. So they have to integrate with backend applications. They have to use the customer base. So in Hong Kong, especially in Standard Chartered Bank in Hong Kong and in Malaysia, we have partnered with a lot of fintech, and we are introducing digital banking for new age customer. And I want to touch upon one interesting aspect when we keep talking about digitalization, right? I was in a workshop in Bangalore about 2 years back, and we are trying to solve a particular problem for the global market. And the UI in your laptop was pretty bad, and we discussed half a day. And then in the break, one gentleman from Africa comes to me. He was a managing director for the African region. He comes to me politely and says, Partha, you guys are missing the point. And my immediate reaction was to be defensive. What are you talking about? We are smart. How can we miss the point, right? And he says, you have to understand the African market. We don't care about how good your UI is in a laptop. I said, what do you mean? I didn't understand that. He said, almost 2 generations of Africans have completely skipped the computer revolution. They've not seen a computer at all. Not in schools, not in colleges. But every one of them has mobile. So the target audience is digitally savvy. It's not just in computers. You give your application in a laptop or a computer, they don't know how to use, they don't have penetration. But you have to start thinking mobile devices when you design a solution, application, and that will solve the problem. And that was fascinating for me. I didn't realize that. And then the next half of the session, it was humbling, and then we started discussing about that problem. I think the summary, what I wanted to say is, right, it is a disrupting force. There's no doubt about it. And it has to be disruptive. And then I've not even touched upon decentralized finance. It's a hot topic right now. And since Doctor does not like blockchain and he called it illegal, I'm not going to talk about it. But I am fascinated with decentralized finance. I believe in decentralization. Sometimes centralization do work, but see, it's democratization of the data, which is really, really important. The problem is not really with decentralization. The problem is in stamping the data with authenticity. It is the trust factor when it comes with decentralization that we need to focus on. And without trust, you can't use the data. Doctor mentioned about Refinitiv. We work with Refinitiv, DMIST, and Encompass, and various data providers. And the beauty why they are successful is because they source data from various sources, including public sources. But when they aggregate the data and they provide it to banks like us, they sell the data for us, they certify the data. And they also represent themselves in a regulatory body, and they've assured, they give operational assurance of the data to the regulators, which essentially means when I consume data from a Refinitiv or a Bloomberg, I can safely consume with the knowledge that regulator is not going to come back and tell me, sorry, you used data which is incorrect, because Bloomberg or Refinitiv is also doing the other part, right, which is talking to the regulators and ensuring that the data is accurate and they take ownership and accountability of the data. And that is very, very important. And decentralized finance, I think, I believe this is going to be a very big space, especially peer-to-peer model. And the transfer-wise example that I gave was P2P model as well. This is a space that I'm keenly watching. And we have partnered with, I'm not privy to share the details, but we have partnered with a couple of digital banks in Asia Pacific region. Especially on the decentralized finance. Right now, we've got a new payment method division that got created in our bank, recognizing the fact that while certain regulators have not still accepted the cryptocurrencies, like I think in India, it's not legal, isn't it? It is not legal. But even though the government does not stop you from buying and selling, I think it's not fully in a legal framework. In Singapore, it is legal to buy. Singapore government recognizes cryptocurrency as a next big revolution. So the point I was making is different regulators have different opinion about crypto. But then we are also moving into the direction of CBDC, which is your central bank digital currency. That's going to be really massive in order to kill crypto. That's a political topic that I'll avoid for now. But the point is, right, these technologies are here to stay. And almost the way I associate crypto with myself is it's a technology that's also a religion. You know, you are either on this side or you're on the other side. So you either love it or you hate it. But I think this technology, it's in its nascent form. I kind of think crypto as 1990s internet revolution, but I think it's going to have an exponential growth. And bank recognizes it. Standard Chartered Bank and JP Morgan, for example, Jamie Dimon publicly says that do not buy Bitcoin. It is going to go to zero. It is a tulip mania, right? And what did he do in private wealth customers? He opened a desk for trading cryptocurrencies. So JP Morgan is making a lot of money while the CEO is giving an advice saying, don't do this. There is a huge opportunity here. I'm not suggesting that we should trade Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, but I think the technology is fascinating and the technology is here to stay and it is going to grow. So one ask that I request the academics and the researchers to focus on, and I'm going to reiterate doctor's messages. We need to localize. We need to look at the local problems. And if you're able to, I'm not smart enough. That's why I'm not in this academic group. I'm on the corporate side, so I'm not going to solve for this, but I need your help to look at these problems. And I'm really happy offline. If any one of you wants to connect with me and talk about real world problems, I can give you 20 different banking problems. And this is industry, not just specific to Standard Chartered Bank. These are problems problem statement. And if you're interested, then you can take some of these problem statement and then see how might we solve this in future. So I'll leave with that passing thought. Thank you very much for the opportunity to have me on the stage here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Parthasarthi, sir. It was quite engaging listening to the real world experiences. So quite a lot of learning, sir. Thank you. I would now like to thank both the guests for sharing their valuable knowledge, views about the topic. It was an informative session, lots and lots of learning from the session. We will now have a short break and we will resume in the next 15 minutes. Thank you.